Hey everyone, and welcome to Rambling Reviews, where we analyze different types of media and or their cultural relevance. My name's Christian, and this is Batman in Detective Comics issue number 29, once again by Bill Finger and Bob Kane. Now, with this issue, we have the introduction of who will be our first recurring villain character, actually, which will be a little bit weird to call him a recurring villain, as we'll find out later, but we'll get to it. Um, this is the Batman meets Doctor Death. We open with a man by the name of Carl Helfern, who will also be going by Doctor Death here, has developed this new pollen that I don't know. It seems to be poisonous or something. He says it can kill indefinitely, and what he wants to do is essentially threaten wealthy people with it and force them to either pay him or he'll kill them with the pollen. So you got to understand the golden age of comics here. They weren't villains and stuff weren't like they are these days. They weren't really that complex and stuff like that. It's kind of just, oh, here's this guy who wants to, commit crimes and is going after wealthy people because why not, like. But in any case, Dr. Death explains that there's only one person who would stand in his way, Batman. So how are they going to get rid of him? How are they going to distract him? How are they going to do anything, right? So what he decides to do is to send him a note letting him know that he's going to commit a crime, he's going to commit a murder, and for basically challenging Batman to stop him. Now, the way he does this is very interesting. Um, he puts out a ad in the paper, letting Batman know to go to the post office and ask for a letter addressed to a John Jones. Now, first of all, this feels like a very contrived way to get a message to him. Also, it makes me wonder if back in these days this kind of thing would have actually worked. And the other thing is, this is a letter he put in the public paper. So the person giving him the letter at the post office, wouldn't they put two and two together here and realize, okay, more than likely, everyone's reading the paper. So he would have read this thing addressed to Batman, is like, oh, this guy, this is Batman. This is him. But in any case, whatever. Batman gets the letter, and I want to point this out here, not to come off too much of like a boomer or something, but this is written in cursive, and there's a lot of like early stuff, and even stuff in like the '90s and stuff. I know in a lot of like '90s Batman comics we'll be getting to way down the line. A lot of Batman's like internal thoughts are written in cursive, and I noticed that a lot of people these days don't know how to read or write cursive. So I wonder if for a lot of people this is like a different language or some kind of lost media. Personally, I was forced to learn how to read and write cursive growing up, so I know this all too well. But in any case, basically, the guys, Doctor Death is just challenging Batman to, like I said, that he's about to commit a murder, and he's like, think you can stop me without any cops? No cops. The Doctor says the crime's going to be committed at a penthouse. So as Bruce is gearing up, and we do have our first moment of Bruce actually gearing up as Batman. It's pretty cool to see. He's getting all his gadgets ready and everything. And yes, he has the rudimentary grappling hook again. But we also see a gadget that he doesn't really use that much. In this case, he's using suction cups to actually climb the rest of the way up after he's attempted well, not the grappling hook, but the rope. So, this is, again, a very primitive, early version of Batman's gadgets. We don't really see him climbing walls or anything like this often, these days. But in any case, it's interesting seeing the, different aspects of Batman that either have lived on or have been lost to history like this. But from something not so iconic to something very iconic, we have our first instance of Batman standing outside a window and his silhouette being casted in this incredible, this just this imagery. We've seen this kind of thing. I think it shows up in Mask of the Phantasm, and we see it in many other things. And it's here's a really early example of that bat silhouette being used, and we'll see another example of it later that I'll be sure to point out. And yeah, it's just again really cool to see these things that are so like integral to the character of Batman and iconic now. They existed back in the 30s, like for the original character. It's incredible. However, Bruce is ambushed by two gunmen, and we see something that's not so common these days in Bruce's brutality. Now, he is still one in modern interpretations of Batman to do things like, break arms and legs. You can basically, I think even paralyze people essentially in the Arkham games and stuff like that. And we see Batman here knocking over a statue, breaking a guy's arm, pummeling them both, and he even picks up the gun, points it at both of them, and he's asking them like, who sent you? And they're like, we can't tell you, you'd kill us. And he's like, you better tell me or I'll kill you. So again, that instance especially, maybe the brutality, that's still like okay, for lack of a better way to say it these days, but not so much the killing. He does have a very stark no killing rule. But once again, early Batman here, not a thing. Batman's then ambushed by Carl's assistant, Jabba, not of the Hutt variety, where he gets a lucky shot on Bruce's shoulder, and we see an instance of yet another iconic Batman thing in a smoke pellet. Batman throws a smoke pellet, which enables him to get away, and once again, I just have to point out, smoke pellets, gadgets, the imagery with the shadow, so many aspects we're seeing just existing throughout all of Batman's early, Batmaning, if you will. Batman gets away, makes his escape, and I do have to give credit to the fact that this sky, while still looks a little too blue for my liking to be nighttime, it's better than like broad daylight baby blue like we see so often, and then it's night. I mean, you could easily mistake this moon for a sun, to be honest with you, but in any case. Now keep in mind, you'll notice we haven't seen Alfred yet. Alfred doesn't actually exist for a good while in the early comics, and he especially is not the father figure slash medic slash many other things that he becomes later in the Batman mythos. So Bruce's plan of action, or course of action rather, is to go to the family doctor and have him patch him up. To which he understandably asks him, what happened? How, like, Bruce tells him he shot himself. He's like, I don't understand how you shot yourself. There's not even any, like, gunpowder residue on your hands or anything. He's like, well, I do crazy things. And someday I'll tell you all about it, which, obviously he has no intention of doing so. Unless, I don't know, maybe this Batman did ever have intention of coming clean about his secret identity at some point. So Carl, understandably annoyed that, they let Batman get away, right when he was in the palm of their hands, sends out Jabba, again, not the Hutt, to take down his, I don't know if it's like a business enemy or what have you, but, someone he wants to, kill and get money from, John P. Van Smith. And this is the first time we're going to actually see his, Dr. Death's deadly pollen in action. So he sends him to take him out, and Bruce actually shows up tailing Jabba. He noticed him just kind of walking around and tails him. And it's a good thing Bruce was tailing him, because Jabba puts his plan into action, attempting to, spray the pollen into John's, I don't even know what, because he's looking behind him and everything, but in any case, Bruce quickly leaps into action, and as Jabba's escaping, he's able to save John, and he tells him, like, don't breathe in whatever that was, otherwise you're dead. He's like, I don't have time to explain, I gotta get out of here. So, of course, he follows Jabba to his residence and finds Dr. Death's location. As Batman arrives on the scene, we have yet another iconic shot, iconic panel, drawing, what have you, of Batman's shadow looming over Jabba and Dr. Death. Again, this is another example of a very iconic image that is still done to this day in different ways. And here it is, back from the beginning. And we have another one as Bruce chases the Doctor down. We have again another, iconic silhouette shadow thing of the bat on the wall behind him. Again, this iconic imagery that still, is prevalent to this day is just absolutely incredible. But once again, something not so iconic that we don't see these days. Dr. Death, as he's running away, he grabs these chemicals, which I imagine he's attempting to set Bruce on fire, because as he grabs them, Bruce grabs a fire hydrant. Again, he doesn't have the, batarangs or anything yet. He grabs a fire hydrant and chucks it at Dr. Death's arm. I imagine breaking it in the process, causing him to drop the beaker and set the whole lab on fire, where he maniacally laughs as he dies in the explosion. And Batman just resides over the whole image, and his only response to everything, watching this man die before his eyes, is simply death to Dr. Death. And that's the end of the issue. Very cold, very, Batman being cold and having, moments like this is not too uncommon. But again, just straight up murdered a guy. And this time, I would say, well, I guess technically you could say that him, and in the first issue, it wasn't technically intentional, but I mean, he certainly didn't do anything to stop it. I guess it's kind of more like in Batman Begins, where he says, "I don't have to kill you, but I'm not going to kill you, but that doesn't mean I have to save you either." Which is like, okay, dude, you're no kill rule. But in any case, yeah, no, that was the end. And again, Doctor Death, I know he dies here, but you know how comic villains are. He will return, and this will be our first recurring villain, which I think is, one of the things that's very interesting about that concept. As well, though, yeah, I mean, there's not really too much kind of to say that I haven't gone through already. We saw more use of gadgets. We saw, the fact that because he didn't have Alfred helping him, in this iteration of Batman, he has to go to a regular doctor. We saw, all of these other elements that kind of, took place. We saw that iconic imagery of the shadows, the bat shadows, and things like that. So, once again, we're seeing so much of the mythos, and iconic imagery and features of Batman that are still around to this day being built up more and more. And yeah, I mean, it really is just incredible to go back and see the early stuff and see how much of an impact this stuff had, moving forward. But in any case, and as always, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Follow me on social media for more. Subscribe, ring the bell to stay up to date. Leave a like if you like. And if not, I hope you find something to do like. Later, guys. Peace and love.